Sometimes, typically when unable to sleep, I ask myself and wonder, gosh golly gee, out of all the games I've played and reviewed over the years, which ones are the stupidest? Cause I mean, like, I've seen some fucking shit, dude. Not to ruin up the build-up of this segment or anything, but easily the dumbest thing ever would have to be the Sniper 2. Though Michigan Report from Hell also had its fair share of moments, not gonna lie.
God damn it!
But as something that's rather consistent in its stupidity, the Resident Evil series certainly comes to mind as well. I mean, for one, they somehow managed to botch the first game's release by mullering the soundtrack, turning a song like this into this. Yeah, my theory about this one is that they used a MIDI tracker to compose it and accidentally changed all of the instrumental tracks, including the percussion, to saxophone. All of these thingies here are instruments, so if I were to change all of these to a sexy phone, you'd end up getting... And of course, there's Resident Evil 6, which was a bit of a piss take in general, though still fun for what it was. And the roided out boulder punching of RE5 or this thing from Revelations weren't exactly genius either. Though, to find some classic Resimong juice in its purest form, one has to look no further than the light gun spin-offs. These are all pretty fucking dumb in their own right, but I'd be lying if I said that any quite match the retardé of Resident Evil Dead Aim. Resident Evil Dead Aim, though, is a game about some type of long-necked FBI mutant sneaking onto a boat in order to stop some dude who turns into a fish woman. Very progressive as always, Capcom. Because A, dude smells like fish now, and fuck that. And B, he also has some really dangerous bioweapons and threatens to do a terrorism, which is the not good. How to stop fish? Well, yeah, so the gameplay in this is like really weird in that it's kind of like a light gun game, but then also just a traditional Resident Evil game as well, but with first-person shooting. There's puzzles, there's boss fights, and there's exploration, only now every time you need to shoot something you get absorbed into Bruce's skull and are confronted with controls that are total So there you go. Just on the synoptical basis alone, shit's pretty fucking dumb. Reason that I picked it though was that despite its stupidity, the game is oddly atmospheric, almost fooling you into thinking that it might be good. Who this game? Why this game? And how did music like this end up being put alongside dialogue and voice acting like this?
Should have left by now. Somewhere in America, there's a kitten stuck in a tree, desperately needing your help.
The game was made in tandem with Code Veronica and RE Outbreak, and so it spawned from the clusterfuck McCrazy productive era of Capcom that also gave birth to Clock Tower 3, Onimusha, RE4, Devil May Cry, and Haunting Ground. So, one can only assume that people walked in and out of development to trade ideas and assets or reappropriate mechanics, as was well documented with shit like DMC being born from a mixture of old RE4 concepts and a glitch found in Onimusha. While researching this though, I found out that Dead Aim's composer Nobuyoshi Sano was quite the dude-ass dude. And by that I mean that he wasn't only the lead composer on Tekken fucking 3, but also the main guy behind the sincerely fucked up Drakengard soundtrack. And he's still active too, making music on his own and still composing for video games as well, the recent Tekken 7 being one of them. How this man isn't mad famous right now is beyond me. What isn't beyond me though are my reasons for bringing this up. See, Dead Aim's music and audio design are legitimately amazing. Its save room theme for one, which is what you're hearing currently, is easily my favorite out of all the Resi save room themes. It isn't quite as iconic as any of the others, sure, but that's also exactly why I'm making this video. As while the game might perhaps be a bit garbo for a variety of reasons, it is also quite the work of art in terms of sheer horror and atmosphere. The game starts you off in one of the dankest hallways known to man. This hallway leads to a trashed room filled with blood, scattered books and pieces of paper, and of course a fancy-smancy floor corpse as the centerpiece. As you look around, no doubt struggling with the horribly insipid camera, you notice some bullets on the bed.
Bullets?
You think to yourself, pondering the implications of them being there, ignoring the fact that this is indeed a video game. With deep thoughts in mind though, you turn around and exit the room so you can explore the rest of the boat. All the while being confronted with haunting echoes and a deep, oppressive darkness, slowly revealing more and more corpses and camera issues with each and every step. So yeah, Resident Evil Dead Aim is really fucking stupid, janky, and predictable. Yet, for some reason, it has the tension, presentation, and build-up of a first-grade horror game. When you continue past the not zombies, walk past the hung lady and into another dingy hallway only to spot a Mr. Man with a little note, you would think that upon picking up said note, he'd be all like... But instead, you just hear a slump emit from the other room. Filled with questions, you jog on back to see and find that the hung lady is now down to just... Wow, innovation. As basic and or bitch though that sequence may be, somewhere it still instilled a sense of oh within me. A lot of that is to do with the lighting, which is genuinely quite great. It uses a similar sort of tile-based system as seen in Silent Hill 1, where it'll more or less procedurally light up parts of your environment in an oddly satisfying manner. Kinda like completing bits of a map through clearing the fog of war in an RTS, which, when paired with the absurdly loud and beefy footsteps punctuating Bruce's every slump through this dump, and the overbearing zombie slouching sounds and the manly-ass gunshots both slamming against your inner ear with a force only rivaled by the droniest drones that have ever droned, actually makes this game sort of kind of effectively scary. I wasn't like terrified, obviously, mainly because I knew how dumb the game was, but it does have a few jump scares that legitimately fucked up my shit because of this. Zombies will lay waiting right up until you pass through a door just to give you a cheeky scare. Audio cues and event triggers are your best worst friend here, alongside all of the lighting stuff I just mentioned. A good example of this would be this bit, where you have the long-ass hallway with Nea Zambo in sight, but at the end of it you can clearly see a succulent herb. However, as you run down the hallway, literally exactly as you push button to pick the fucker up, you can hear some soggy footsteps approaching from behind. All the while, the boat bumble fucks away like a growling hungry bear. And to say that the machinery and the onboard computer noises aren't very fucking present would be an understatement to say the least. It isn't too dissimilar from how someone like David Lynch would use audio design to make even the normiest of shit seem really fucking oppressive. I mean, hell, the game doesn't even have any music per se, it's just drones. Abrasive, unsettling, and eerie drones. Another good thing regarding this game's ability in creating horror is the layout of the boat itself and its usage of claustrophobic hallways and densely packed, poorly lit rooms. The color palette adds to this as well, as it's very lifeless in a way. Even when all the lights are on, the dim tones still tend to make things dark, cold, and generally unwelcoming. Much like other Resi games, or maybe even more like Silent Hill, the Spencer Rain is home to a lot of rooms. Rooms that could be filled with shoot-bang, but more often than not will only leave you waiting in suspense. The boat has a very classic style of interior, though it isn't quite as lavish as some would assume a cruise ship to be. Thing is that this is an old-ass game, and so, much like Resi Uno, its lacking in graphical fidelities gives the area as a sense of uncanny emptiness that greatly works in its favor. Surprisingly enough, despite the manual camera, it also manages to pull off the good old obscuring angle shtick, as for one, the camera is a living hell to handle. And for two, the Spencer Rain's old-timey architecture makes for some very harsh, angular corners that go well with the previously mentioned rooms and hallways. Zombies tend to be audible long before they're visible. Being trapped in a room, for example, can be quite the harrowing experience when you can hear them coming towards you as they bellow in a poorly mixed and localized fashion, making it hard to place where exactly they are. And with the gameplay being as awkward as it is, it seems to work in creating something that's threatening and above all, scary. In regards to that gameplay though, it's just Resident Evil 1, but shit. As I've already stated before, it's not like terrible at all in any case, but I'd still wager that that's the main reason that the game faded into obscurity. Cause yeah, the boat is just a smaller Spencer Mansion, making you do the usual shoot bang as you puzzle your way through, backtracking back and forth and gradually unlocking sections of the area. I quite like it though, its shittiness actively adds to the spooks, and it's also just nice to play a game that's so unapologetically resi. I wouldn't really say that the survival aspects of this survival horror game are quite as functional as you ultimately want them to be, what with there being ammo literally everywhere and enemies that don't really do much. But then this isn't exactly a review now, is it? So shut up! Though, honestly, I'd say that simply mentioning the fact that you control both the camera and Bruce, who has tank controls that'll lift to the positioning of said camera with nothing but the left analog stick says more than enough. Anyway, for a dumb, hokey, light gun shooter / traditional survival horror hybrid, it's actually kinda spooky due to the reasons hopefully demonstrated to you in this video. And based on those, I am somewhat tempted to urge you to give it a try if you are a Resident Evil fan. I mean, the first-person shooting alone already makes it echo some of the better bits of the Fatal Frame series, I guess, and the boat setting is without a shred of a dick done much better here than in any other boat-related horror games. Of course, it's not like the entire thing takes place on just a bourgeoisie cruise ship alone, as you also go down into the cruise quarters where things get mad dark. And atmospherically not too dissimilar from RE7, oddly enough, and thereafter you also end up on Sewage Island, where you wade through the sewers for about an hour, totes tapping into all of your slimy aquatic phobias. Sadly though, much like a certain other Resident Evil game prominently featuring a boat, no, not 7, no, not Gaiden either, the boat is easily its strongest asset. After all, nowhere else in the game will you see moments quite like this.